We are back with U.S. Senate candidate Graham Plattner. So before the break, I was saying, you weren't the National Party's pick. For people out there, he wasn't the National Party's pick. Chuck Schumer recruited Janet Mills to run for this race. He quickly endorsed you today. Have you spoken to him today? And what's that relationship like right now?
Yes. No, we had a brief conversation this evening, and I'll just say that nothing brings people together like wanting to beat Susan Collins. So that's where we are.
But you're still not going to support him for leader, are you? Or have you changed your mind on that?
No, I mean, my criticisms of leadership, my criticisms of the party, they remain. I will say I think that those criticisms, those pale, I think, from their perspective, from the party leadership's perspective, in comparison to the need to take down Collins, because there is no Democratic majority in the Senate without getting rid of Collins. And I think that for everybody right now is the priority. Everything else, I guess we can hash that out later on. But at this point, the fight is against Collins, and we're all going to align and work together to that goal. But my criticisms of leadership absolutely remain the same.
Trump is obviously a factor in every race in the country. I mean, he's the sitting president. He's hugely unpopular. He started this hugely, not just unpopular, but to your point, it's not even a political issue, kind of immoral, misguided, not guided at all, war in Iran. How much of Trump is a factor in this general election against Susan Collins for you in Maine?
You know, it's funny. You know, we all understand that Donald Trump is uniquely awful, that Donald Trump really is kind of the avatar of the worst elements of our politics and our society. But I think a lot of people also understand that Trump is the symptom of a much deeper rot. I mean, Trump is the outcome of a system that for a long time now has been leaving working people, average, everyday Americans, feeling like their politics does not represent them at all. Like, I'll be upfront. I have a lot of friends who voted for Donald Trump. I live in rural Maine. I work on the water. I got friends who voted for Trump 3 times. And I can tell you they voted for a change candidate. They wanted this whole thing to look different. They felt like they'd been left behind. And well, of course, Trump was not going to be the answer to that. That frustration remains because right-wing populism, Donald Trump's presidency, it hasn't fixed any of those problems that people had. In fact, it's made them worse. Prices have gone up. We are watching, at this point, just outright corruption in our political system. That's a thing that Americans see. They see it and they understand it for what it is. And we are going to continue to show people that it isn't just about beating Trump, although of course it is. It really is about building a political system that does not result in Donald Trump in the first place. It's building a political system that is accessible to people and that people can see themselves represented in. Because I'll be honest, I mean, as someone that was kind of living a very normal life until about a year ago, this political system as we have it, the average person does not see themselves reflected. We don't see our will. We don't see our material needs reflected in the halls of power. And that's really what we're engaged in. So when it comes to Collins, her inability, let me rephrase, her attempt to thread this needle where she is pro-Donald Trump enough to try to appease his loyalists, but also anti-Donald Trump enough to try to trick everybody else into supporting her, that doesn't work now. That doesn't work in this era. And I think she's going to run up to the finite end of that kind of politics. And we're going to very much continue pointing out that she doesn't stand up to Donald Trump. She doesn't reign in his power. And his abuse of that power is making things materially worse day after day for the average American.
Very concerned doesn't fly anymore, I don't think. They're clutching their pearls and very concerned. Let me ask you about some other aspect of this, and you alluded to this. I mean, you ran your campaign in part by running against Washington. This is a very effective thing for people to do out there right now. Washington is not exactly popular. Youth is also very popular. But you ran against, Washington, its inadequacies, and the failure of Democrats, too, to use power and think boldly enough. So if you're elected to the Senate, it's possible, I started the show talking about this, that you could be in the majority. How do you think power should be wielded if Democrats are given that, for people who are just getting to know you, try to figure you out there?
Well, first and foremost, I think we need to understand that the Democratic Party needs to form a theory of power. I don't think it's had one for a long time. It's had a theory of management. The Republican Party has, which is one of the reasons why we find ourselves in these straits. With a theory of power, you have to define the end state. What is the goal? What do you want to use your power in the service of? And then, how are you going to craft the policies to get there? And more importantly, build the political will and the political power to make those policies a reality. Something we're going to have to do if we're in the majority. We need to use the power we get to shut this White House down. We do that, I think one of the best ways is through committee hearings and investigations. I want the Trump administration not to function because everyone in the White House is being hauled under subpoena in front of a Senate committee day after day after day. Not just because, one, we have so many crimes to investigate. At this point, we can probably be doing this for the next 30 years. But two, because it's a lever of power. Using subpoena power, bringing people in for investigations, that keeps them busy. And that doesn't allow them to go start another stupid war. That doesn't allow them to continue to give billionaires more and more and more of our economy. And so I think it's very important that if we're in the majority, we're going to wield the power that we have to rein this thing in. I also think, and I'll just be upfront, I don't believe a single U.S. Democratic senator should vote for a nominee out of the Trump administration moving forward. I think we need to use all of the power we have around funding and the power of the purse to stop paying for these kinds of stupid wars, stop paying for agencies like ICE, stop paying for the things that the Trump administration is doing that are materially hurting our democracy and hurting working people. But we need to get people into office who have a theory of power and who understand that the purpose of power isn't just to have it, it's to use it. It's to wield it and in the service of a long-term goal. And I mean, honestly, that's not what we've been seeing for quite some time.
Graham Plattner, so many more questions, but I got to get to other guests. Thank you. Actually, on cue, my next guest is Jack Smith's deputy who's running for Congress. So when we talk about investigations, it's a natural lead-in. Thank you for joining me tonight.
Perfect lead. No,
okay,
thank you very much, Jen. I really appreciate it.